So we start. Here we go, the slideshow from the beginning. Good morning, everybody. And I didn't change the date. I am just so lame this morning, but so what else is new? You must be used to me by now. And guess what? I'm a short timer. And
It's
our
May
greeter this
26th.
morning was Chris, but I didn't see him greet. So
No. Absent.
Without leave. So Michael Cook, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I would be delighted. Everyone, gaze at the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All. Thank you.
Oh,
Darlene, I don't see Darlene here this morning yet either, do I?
Oh,
No, we need a thought. Anybody have a thought?
I have a thought.
Okay, Lori.
If you cannot see the bottom, do not wade far.
Very good. Thank you. And I found this now, for those of you on Facebook, the Rotary Club of Delhi Southex always has really good little blurbs, but I thought this one was really nice. No one ever made a difference by being like everybody, like everyone else. So, good morning. Joe, are we ready
Yes,
for our
Barbara.
happy song?
We are. You know what? Monday is Flag Day.
Ah,
Okay, I know you all knew that.
Oh,
Ken, that's why Ken Brandt is
June
here. He's
14th.
probably carrying his flag down the West Coast. So I figured a little, she's a grand old flag, or you're a grand old flag.
perfect.
Got it?
Got it.
You're a grand
old flag, you're a high-flying flag. Forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land of
the
home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Where there's never a boast or brag.
Should old
acquaintance
be
forgotten, keep your eyes
on the grand old flag.
Motley, as usual, we are exceeding our own
Boy,
expectations
that was
with
great.
that song. aren't we? So we have several cyber Rotarians with us. First of all, past president Ken Brandt from the Rotary Club of Medford, Oregon. Welcome, Ken. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
And then we have from the Rotary Club of Sebastopol, past president Rick Wilson, our program today. Good morning, Rick.
Lovely to be here.
And last, but absolutely friggin' not least, from the Rotary Club of Sparks, we have past District Governor Elaine Campbell and past District Governor Bruce Campbell, affectionately known as Bruce and Helene. So I think that's it, isn't it? That's all of us. It's all the new. So then no guests. So wave to your friends. We all want to say good morning, everybody. Yay. You know, we can't hug. So what the hey, we have to wave. Morning, Kathy. How are ya?
Great. How are you?
Good. And then I get to mute everybody, my usual fun thing with my click, click, clicks, muting you all. But you know what? Unmute yourself if you want to, because it's our club meeting, and I don't want you all to be suppressed. How's that? I don't want to suppress anybody here. But we don't have any birthdays, no anniversaries, and no Rotary anniversaries. But Henry and Al, Henry is now fully fermented. Yay! And these are all pictures of fermented foods.
Thank you.
So, Al, would you like to do the honors, or who's going to do the honors? Unmute.
Al.
I am unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Well, again, Henry, we welcome you into our club. And
Thank you.
we know that you have many years of experience as a Rotarian. And going through the fermentation must have been kind of a joke for you, having been in multiple Rotary clubs previous to this, and probably as long as any of our members have ever been in a club. So with that, with the honors that we have bestowed upon you to become a fully fledged member of our Rotary Club, your yellow or red ribbon, whichever one was virtually given to you, is now removed.
All
Thank
right.
Welcome.
Yay.
Yay. So here's what's going on. First of all, we have First Friday. So Kathy Rogers, did you want to say anything about it? Are we doing it? Unmute. Where are you?
Yes, I may need Linda to help me with the sign up, but it's basically a potluck. I know Michael McLaughlin is working on even extra tables and chairs. And we'll have plenty of, paper plates and stuff like that. And then it'll be just our normal potluck. So Al, do you have anything to add?
Nope. Just be there or be square.
5:30. We're gonna do it at 5:30, which we've always done our first Fridays. to
At
keep
Libby
it
Park, right?
consistent. Yes, at Libby Park.
Super. Yay. How many people are looking forward to this? Yay.
So Kathy, is this for dinner? We're doing a potluck dinner?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Super. Woohoo. And then Saturday the 12th is the party at the Blue Heron in Duncan's Mills for Chris. And it's sort of a giant gala goodbye or adios, since he's going to Ecuador in Espanol, es adios, for Chris. And I honestly can't remember what time it is. And I was
I
going
have
to
it
look
on my
up this
calendar.
morning.
Hold on.
What
3
Kathy?
o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Okay, perfect. I was going to look it up this morning, but the brain fog just didn't happen. And of course, this weekend is the Rotary International Convention, which is all virtual, but it will be interrupted for some members of our club by the board retreat on Sunday afternoon. So watch what you can, be sure and register online and attend what you can. Monday is the membership committee meeting. June 21st is the joint board meeting. This is with both boards. And then the 26th is the movie night. Is there anything else coming up that I don't have on the calendar?
We will do a food bank probably on the last Wednesday. I've got to set it up yet.
Okay, super. Thank you. And Charlie, do you want to talk briefly about next week's program? Charlie, I know. Maybe I ought to just quit.
Oh, great.
Everybody.
No, I got it. I just was slow in honor of Ken Brandt being he's non-technical. A good excuse. I'm non-technical. In any case, I'm glad I got this to you just in the nick of time, Barbara. I'm sorry I didn't get
Yes,
to you
you
yesterday.
did.
But we heard from Skip Drills a couple of years ago regarding the Map Your Neighborhood project, and there's been an update to that. They have a new website. It's also co-sponsored not just by the fire department, but also by the Gravenstein Health Action Network. I think I've got that right. And I'm sorry, coalition. And so he's going to bring us up to date. It's a more expanded program, and it'll be interesting to hear what they're up to.
Super. Thank you. Weekly announcements. Michael McLaughlin, you had a community service meeting on Monday. Is there anything that you want to update us on that you discussed at the meeting?
Yeah, the Community Service Committee met, and the primary project that we're discussing is building ramps to the stage at Ives Park.
It's not accessible at the moment, and it's a pain in the neck trying to load equipment on and off that stage. And it's not handicap accessible either. So I'm going to meet with the city this morning, and the Noon Club is interested in it. We're looking at, and we're going to be we'll be meeting over there at Ives Park in the next couple of days to try to determine the scope of the project and what the budget would be. So. Assuming everything is doable, that looks like it's going to be our district grant. And if we have extra money left over for the district grant, there's another project involving esports at the combined high school. And so we're exploring that too. David Mark Raymond is leading that front.
Super. Now,
so that's where we are.
Who originally built that stage?
We did.
That's right.
Because yes, of your daughter.
And that was a district grant, and I can't remember exactly how many years ago, but
2004.
2004. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep, we built that stage. And
wasn't your daughter in one of the programs?
I think something like that. And I know a very good friend of mine was. So I guess one of the assessment pieces is how well the stage is held up and whether it needs any repairs.
It had to be more prior to 2004 because I left in October of 2003 and I helped build it.
Right.
Yeah, we replaced it with
Trex. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the Rotary stage. Yay. So the week in review, whoops, how did I get that? Anyway, Michael Fells, who is lucky, number 22.
Oh, lucky Rod McCauley.
Rod, super. I got your name on the back. I will scratch it.
I'm on the edge of my chair.
Yeah, you're on the edge. Yes, we have had such good luck with ladybugs. Now, Wayne Britton or Bruce. Now, Bruce is here with us, but Wayne, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about this picture?
Well, this is a picture from the graduation at Laguna that was held last Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, it was early enough so it wasn't too hot, but it got pretty warm. They held it this year out on the basketball court as opposed to under the cover so that we could socially distance, and they had it all laid out, and it was a very nice ceremony. Bruce and Helene gave the award for our club for the Student of the Year, and that went to a young man named David Sandoval. And David was during school a member of the North Bay Construction Corps, and evidently he's going to be going on and doing a 2-week internship with them, and that might lead to a job. I was also able to give a scholarship from the Men's Garden Club to a young lady named Laura Wheeler, and she's off to the JC to study botany and related subjects. So it turned out to be a pretty nice day, and everybody had a good time, I think. It was a little bit shorter than usual. They didn't have, I think, they didn't seem to have as many speakers as they usually have from the students, but everything turned out well.
Thank you. Bruce, would you like to say anything, since this is you did the presentation for the Bruce and Helene Scholarship for the Student of the Year? Bruce?
We were very happy to come down for that. We've been able to do it virtually, well, in face-to-face. Virtually has a different term these days. We were able to do it essentially every year since it's been given in 2005. And Wayne hit it on the button. It was short and sweet. It was a little shorter than usual, just an hour long. And it seemed to have more graduates this year than usual. But,
They had 58.
Yeah,
They had 58 graduates.
yeah, that's
Biggest
big.
class ever.
That's a big class. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting, Bruce.
That's okay.
we had a good time. Good to see people.
Yes. Well, great. Glad that we could do this. You know, to me, supporting Laguna is one of the most important things that we do in our community. So then we move on to this. So Joe and Michael McLaughlin, what's going on here?
Well, you should ask Jim Glom, really.
Yeah, the Glomster.
Yeah.
The walrus.
Johnny Weissmuller.
We had the payoff for Frank Mayhew bought the barbecue at our auction, and when you're Frank's age, you want to rush into these things. We had a very lovely time at Joe and Patty's. Patty and Joe did a wonderful job of setting everything up and all of the accompanying dishes. We had brisket, we had smoked salmon, we had sausages, we had ribs, potato salad, all sorts of stuff. And it was just really nice being with everyone again. And so we really had an enjoyable time. Frank got more than his money's worth. It was originally set up for 12 people and we ended up serving 21.
Wow.
So it all worked out very well.
Super. Now I see there's a rub there. Is that your secret recipe or?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. And you aren't willing to share.
And I would tell you, except that Rick Wilson's in the audience. So.
Oh, well then forget it. Rick, you have to sign off and sign back in so that Michael will tell us what his secret recipe is for the rub. Well, thank you to you.
Thank you.
Joe and Patty for hosting, because we know what a great yard you have for something like that. Even though, you know, in all the times we've had First Friday at your house, I don't know how many times you've actually had people in the pool. Do you happen to remember?
Well, no, not in recent years. There have been some others.
Brownie was in the pool.
Dan's
That's right.
debunking, right?
Yeah.
We had Dan Needham's mesa meeting in the pool.
That's right. Flipper.
There was the time I house sat for you. The time I house sat for you.
I still
Barbara,
have
I just
those
want to add
pictures.
one more thing about that house. I saw on Facebook, you know how they give you this day. This was 8 years ago. We had a First Friday at Joe and Patty's house, and there was a picture of Joe at the barbecue. I didn't share it again, but it reminded me of what a great time that was 8 years ago.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. It's a great house. Thank you guys. And it was just one of those, one more thing that made our auction a success. Thank you. So now we get to Happy Bucks. Does anybody have Happy Bucks today? We've got time. We've got almost, 10 minutes. Let's stretch this puppy out. Who's got stuff going on? Dan.
I have some Happy Bucks, yeah. So actually I owe some thanks to Rod McCauley and Wayne Britton and Charlie Judson. Rod helped me help a friend out the other day, and Wayne helped with the plants post auction, and Charlie helped me help a friend get some Rotary programs for another club. So I owe all three of those guys some thanks, and I will make a nice donation, Happy Bucks donation to our club foundation for that. And I also want to say I'll miss all of you guys on Friday because I reserved the first Friday, but then the second Friday I'm flying to the East Coast because we have some graduations and other family celebrations. I'll be gone to the Massachusetts, Connecticut area for the next week. So I'll miss seeing all of you guys on Friday.
So thank you, Dan, and have a good trip. And wear your mask on the airplane. Anybody else have Happy Bucks?
I've got Happy Bucks.
Okay, let's go, Michael McLaughlin.
I have happy bucks that the Sebastopol Documentary Film Festival is about to start tomorrow. And that is going to take the pressure off my lovely wife, who's been going nuts for the last year. They put together 3 film festivals in 20 months. And so it's been a really hard go. I don't know how many of you saw Sebastopol is opening, the little film that they did. I know that Michael Fells distributed it to everybody. It is really heartwarming. I'll tell you, it brought me to tears, just with feelings of joy that we are finally beginning to reopen. So that's worth some happy bucks to me.
Super, thank you. Who else?
I've got some happy bucks.
Okay,
So, Barbara.
Yep. Rod.
We had our children visit from Pasadena, and they took there's a new flight on, well, two airlines are flying now from Burbank Airport to STS. And so we met them at the airport. Our little airport's getting too big. I really liked it when it was one gate. There was no confusion about where you should be. Anyway, can't stop that. So I'll pop $100 in the pot for the joy of having our children with us for a weekend.
Super. Yep, we all know about that joy. It's so nice to be able to see physically and hug people again. It just anybody else? We got time, folks. We got lots of time.
I'll offer up some happy bucks.
Thank you, Jim.
On Sunday, I delivered and planted in the Peace Pole to Dorothy Rebello and her husband Ron and their 2 grandkids. And it was in Healdsburg on West Side Road, a lovely little farmhouse that the Rebellos have owned for quite a while. And it turns out that her husband's a winemaker. So I had to have a few glasses of wine with him, and it was wonderful. And he let me take home a couple bottles as well. But the Peace Pole is duly planted, and the recipients are very peaceful.
Great, thank you. That was another wonderful auction item. So great, thank you very much. Anybody else?
I have happy bucks too.
Okay, Lori, yay.
This coming weekend is my granddaughter's 7th birthday, and my daughter does this great big thing. And I told her I had a commitment for this weekend, so we actually went last weekend, which was better because that was one-on-one with the grandkids in Sacramento. It was hot. My husband worked with my son-in-law. They did a project putting slats and enclosing the deck. And I took the granddaughter shopping so she could get her present. And it was really pretty cool because those grandkids, so one's 10 and the other one's going to be 7, they practiced all week to do a play for us. This is a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they did it to the greatest show on earth. I videotaped it. It's pretty cool. So we felt very special. So I'll put $100 into the foundation as well.
Great. That sounds fabulous. So do we have a budding Broadway producer here?
This 10-year-old is amazing. She doesn't do real well in school because she is very creative. She's just like her mother, loves to dance. And, this stuck at home stuff has really brought out her creativity. So we'll see what happens. I was amazed, actually. And not just because I'm the Grammy, but because for a 10-year-old to put this whole thing together with 5 different skits, I thought it was pretty good.
So Broadway producer, movie producer, screenwriter, who knows what.
Well, and also she's 10 and she's a half an inch taller than me. So she could be a basketball player as well.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Anybody else have
Yeah,
something?
Barbara.
Yep. Go for it, Jerry.
I went out yesterday to the coast to see the peregrine falcon family, and their chick, they only had one this year, but it has fledged and is learning to fly. And I got some of my best photos ever of the falcons. I put them on Facebook if anybody's interested. And there's a whole
great.
story of the parents are kind of teaching this youngster in what they do is, they'll put food, they won't take it to the juvenile. They'll put it on another sea stack farther away, so the bird has to fly over there. And it squawks a lot, it wants to be taken care of, but they make sure that it does things on its own. And I just got some fabulous photos. I spent about 4 hours out there clicking away.
Nice.
And anyway, so that's worth some money.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, I saw those photos and it's just like, wow. And when we were last week, when we were visiting friends, I know you probably got a friend request from somebody you've never heard of, Bob Weichel, and it's because I was showing him your photos on Facebook. So please
Okay,
like
I'll
him.
look for that. Yeah, as a rule, if I don't know anybody and don't see that we have mutual friends, I'm a little cautious. But
right,
Yeah.
duh.
And Gary, are those weasels still out there, or do they disappear?
I've got so many weasel pictures, but they're a lot of fun. I see fewer people taking pictures of them these days, but at their height, there were about 10 of us out there.
Yeah.
And
that's
Jerry,
at Regal.
Yeah.
Jerry, my husband wants to know if you give tutoring lessons on your photography, because he says, that guy in your club, those pictures are amazing. Ask him if he'll help me learn how to do that. So you should
Sure, let's talk.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So Barbara, I looked up and sure enough, it was July of 2003 that we built that stage. I've got an action shot of us working on it and Helene supervising. So
do you want to share it? Can you share it?
yeah, I could. You have
Okay,
to
I'm going to stop
unshare yours.
sharing. There you go. Share away.
Okie doke. Let's see.
Yay, there we
Oh,
are.
it was the 25th, 26th, and 27th. We were working on this stage.
Right.
So I have pictures of them with at the foundation of it.
Yep.
So that's great.
Super.
That was one of the best things we've done.
Yeah. No, it's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think on that note, does anybody else have anything, or shall we start our program a couple of minutes early?
Let's go to that program.
Go to that program. So who is Charlie? Are you handling the introduction for Rick? Who needs no introduction, because we all know who Rick is.
There are a few that may not, and everybody gets an introduction no matter what. Yeah, Rick is the past president of the Noon Club. He's a longtime Rotarian, and probably most of us know him, although I certainly don't know him well. I know him primarily from making tamales together. His talk today is entitled "A Witness to History," a memoir. And in my introduction, I don't want to step on anything he might have to say to us, but I'll just leave it at this, and that's that I've known 2 Washington, D.C. lobbyists who had very, very fancy suits. And I've known also a number of river rafting entrepreneurs who never in their lives owned a suit. And Rick has done both of those things. Only person I've ever met that did that. It's kind of an unusual transition, I think. And Rick, I really thank you for sharing some of your history today. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm delighted to share some stories with my second favorite Rotary Club this morning. The fact that our 2 clubs now work closely together on such projects as build a new playground. I never want to see another tamale in my life. And feeding the hungry at Christmas is a damn good thing. My name is Charles Frederick Wilson III. My father waited until my mother was being wheeled into to the delivery room at St. Luke's in San Francisco's Mission District when he said, "I think we will name him CFW III, but we shall call him Ricky after Frederick." Both of the men for whom I am named are native Washingtonians, as in the District of Columbia. Both my grandfather and my father, plus my mother and grandmother, currently and forever reside in Section 1, Grave 899 at Arlington National Cemetery. I also attended Mr. Jefferson's University of Virginia, which is located 110 miles south of the nation's capital. So I have done my time in DC, and I love the city, even though it's located in a former swamp known as Foggy Bottom. I have had the experience of reading both Charles Sr.'s and Charlie Jr.'s remembrances, which my grandfather insisted a gentleman should write at 70, an age I visited 2 years ago. Grandfather's story was 4 pages, single space, typewritten, and it was, as Joe Friday said, just the facts, with no emotion and no great stories. I will never understand why a guy who was personal secretary, which translates today to chief of staff, to Secretary of State Philander C. Knox in the Taft administration, could come off so boring. My father's was even worse, 10 pages handwritten on a legal pad. Here's a guy who graduated from UVA in 1939, spent 5 years in the South Pacific during World War II, traded a refrigeration unit off his ship for a Jeep so he could take my mother, who was in the Red Cross, out, smartest thing he ever did, lost 1/3 of his best friends in the war, and was on the Missouri for the Japanese surrender. And his narrative was as dry as popcorn. About 10 years back, I decided that I would write down as many stories as I could remember, and I have almost 400 pages typewritten in my lifelong story, which I call Lies I've Told at Breakfast. This morning, because of the 4-way test, I will attempt to stay in truth territory, which may be difficult after the 8 years of the Donalds administration. The old gray mare, known as Truth, ain't what she used to be. This morning, I will share some stories from my life and times. I will start on a hot August afternoon in the late 60s at the Supreme Court building, which is just across the street from the US Capitol. My best friend, David Abernethy, and I had a luncheon engagement with my godfather, T. Perry Lippett, the chief marshal of the highest court in the land. As chief marshal, my godfather was the guy who stood in the doorway and yelled, "Oyez, oyez," as the chief justice entered the floor of Congress. He also hired the janitors and signed the justices' paychecks. After shaking hands and introducing my friend David to my godfather, Chief Marshal Perry said, "Come with me, boys." We followed him down a 30-foot tall marble hallway to a T. Then we take a right and we walk to the end where we encounter these 16-foot tall, massive oak doors. Perry knocks and the stentorial tones resonate back, "Come in." We approach a huge desk and the Chief Justice stands and my godfather says, "Mr. Justice Warren, I would like to introduce you to my godson, Ricky, and his best friend, David. They are from California." You guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Good. It was just a change in the screen here.
Yeah.
Earl Warren came out from behind his massive desk, warmly shakes our hand, and invites us over to a seating alcove in the corner of his large suite, which looks out across the street at the Capitol. For about 20 minutes, the Chief Justice treated us like long-lost nephews. I believe you all will remember that Earl Warren, earlier in his career, was the governor of our fair state.
Mhm.
About halfway, 10 minutes into the 20 minutes, my friend David starts doing one of these things, looking around at all the trappings in the Chief Justice's office. And he has subsequently admitted to me that that was the moment that he contracted Potomac fever. Now, for those of you that don't know what Potomac fever is, the Potomac River separates the Commonwealth of Virginia from the nation's capital. And people who go there to Washington and really relate to being close to the center of power and never want to leave, they are known as having Potomac fever. So at this point in time, David was working for the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic in San Francisco, but he decided to flip his script and went to Yale and earned a master's in health administration. and ended up as then chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Dan Rostenkowski's health guy. He was close enough to Rostenkowski that Rostenkowski called him Doc, and David was the first former staffer that was invited to Chicago to have lunch with the former congressman after he got out of the can. One of the more interesting things of seeing David's tenure working for Rostenkowski was the difference of his office when there was a Republican administration or a Democratic administration. When the Democrats were in power, David had an office that wasn't as big as Earl Warren's, but it had a private bathroom and a fireplace and a library and a couch, and it was quite something. When the Republicans were in power, David's office approximated a broom closet. I had many wonderful experiences with David over the years at the Capitol, things like dining in the Senate dining room and meeting Barry Goldwater on the underground train from the office building to the Capitol. The most interesting experience my pal David arranged for me was an ability to attend the Watergate hearings right there in the Senate chambers. And I was there the day that Senator Sam Ervin from North Carolina interviewed Maurice Stans, who was the chairman of CREEP, which was the committee to re-elect the president as in Nixon. And the dialogue back and forth between the two was incredible. Sam Ervin said, "Now, Mr. Stans, I'm led to believe that in your office you had a safe. And in that safe, there were certain funds that would be used to help elect the president, re-elect the president of the United States. Is that true, sir?" "Yes, it is." Well, then can you tell me, Mr. Stans, how much money might have been in that safe at any given time? "No, sir, actually, I can't." And Ervin just exploded. He said, "You, sir, are a businessman, and you're telling me that you are accountable for all these funds in this safe, and you can't tell me how much money there was?" And Stans looks at him and says, "Well, I wasn't the only one who had the combination to the safe. So it's possible that I could have gone home at night and somebody could have come and gotten in the safe and gotten some funds." And I think, my God, I think that was the moment when the entire country realized that Nixon was dirty and he was going to go. But I will never forget that experience as long as I live. Not all, and it was mentioned earlier about the lobbyists. Well, I want to assure you that not all of our Capitol adventures were as serious as Watergate. I have witnessed lobbying up close and personal. Lunch at the Palm Grill, followed by the Gentlemen's Clubs, or on a yacht on the Potomac. One of the best remembered lobbyists, who shall be nameless, was Bill Clinton's driver when he was the governor of Arkansas. And that boy had some stories. The best connection David made in DC was Kip O'Neill. Can you guess? Kip O'Neill's father was Tip O'Neill. Now, isn't that cute? Tip and Kip. And Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, was very proud of his son because he was a football fan, and Kip was the NFL lobbyist and the man to know if you want Super Bowl tickets. So David and I found ourselves on the 50-yard line at Joe Robbie Stadium, Miami, Florida, for the Super Bowl 23, which John Madden to this day still calls the best one of all. And we were on the 50-yard line, and it was the Niners and the Bengals. And it came down to like a little over a minute, and I think we were down by 5 points or something like that. And the whole team was very nervous. Montana comes into the huddle, and everybody's like, "Whoa, anticipation, this, that." And Montana points up in the stands. He says, "Look, isn't that John Candy over there?" And everybody goes, "Yeah, it is." And they had a big laugh. And he says, "Let's go to work." And that was John Taylor and the catch. And I mean, I've never seen anything like that. And I'll never forget, the Bengals had the stupidest yell I've ever heard. Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Who they gonna think gonna beat them Bengals? And there was a bar like every 5 feet at the Super Bowl. So by the fourth quarter, we would stand up in the middle of that enclave and, pardon my French, but say, "The 40 fucking Niners, that's who." And they did. And we were very, very happy. Moving along here. We went to Super Bowl 24 in New Orleans. The Niners beat the Broncos 55-10. And then, if everybody remembers, there was going to be the three-peat in Tampa. But unfortunately, the New York Giants knocked us out of the last playoff game. And I had a ticket to that Super Bowl, and I'd already spent a non-refundable $400 on the airplane ticket, which I had to eat. But at least I saw the game with the Giants. I will shift my strategy here a little bit. I want to tell you about the most exciting day I ever had in my career. Earlier in my career, after I got out of the Army, I was director of conventions for the Association of Western Hospitals. And in 1969, I did a convention at Civic Auditorium in Brooks Hall, where the keynote speaker was former President Gerald Ford. And I didn't find out until working with the Secret Service on the site preparation and security, right down to the bomb sniffing dogs, that this was going to be Gerald Ford's first appearance in San Francisco since Sarah Jane Moore tried to assassinate him outside of the St. Francis Hotel there at the Post Street entrance. And if you go, every tour I ever give to San Francisco, I make sure we go see that, because they're just to the right of the Post Street entrance, which is almost to the corner, is an ATM machine. And about 4 feet above the ATM machine, a little to the right, there's a hole in the concrete. And that's where the bullet that was aimed for President Ford ended up, thank God, missing him. So the scenario of the Civic Auditorium experience called for Gerald Ford to arrive in the Polk Hall. We have meet the dignitaries, pose for pictures, move to the main arena, give the speech, and then upstairs to the second floor to the Larkin hallway or Larkin room, where he was going to give a press conference. And then from there, he was done. So everything went very smoothly until we concluded the press conference. And now all I had to do was get him down the Larkin hallway to the back of the building to the freight elevator. And remember, freight elevators open like this as opposed to passenger elevators that open like this. The entourage was the president, myself, Gimo Perini, my photographer, and 8 Secret Service agents. And Gerald Ford was one of the most down-to-earth, nice guys you'd ever want to meet. We were talking about skiing at Vail and whatnot. We get in the elevator. The lead Secret Service agent pushes the button. The door closes. We're trying to get from the second floor down to the garage, and the elevator starts to go up. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, Jesus Christ, not on, you can't be doing this to me. This is not on my stage. So no weapons were drawn, but the coats were open and the hands were on them. And the Secret Service agents formed 2 phalanxes of 4 across the front of the elevator and shuffled the president and me and my photographer to the back of the elevator. We go by the 3rd floor. We get up to the 4th floor. The elevator opens. There are 3 African-American janitors trying to move their mops from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor. Didn't have any idea what we were up to. And the Secret Service agent says, "This elevator's in use." And as the door closes, one of the brothers points at Ford and says, "Hey, I know you." And I'm telling you, I was never glad. I was shaking like a leaf when we got down to the garage and I shook his hand and sent him on his way. And I promise you that he remembered that moment, as I will, until the day that I die. So the ending of the story, it was interesting because I was walking up Sutter Street from the Stockton Sutter garage with my friend, Deputy Chief of the San Francisco Police Department, Frank Reed, who's a member of my Golden Gate Breakfast Club. And I told him this story and he sort of laughed. He said, "Man, I was on duty that day." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, well, if you remember, there was a gay disabled veteran sitting in a wheelchair who saw what Sarah Jane Moore was going to do and slapped her hand. And that's why the bullet went wide and hit above the ATM machine." But then the Frank said, as he laughed, typical cop humor, he said, "And then the bullet ricocheted off the building and went halfway up Post Street to Mason and hit my partner in the nuts." And I said, "My God, Frank, was he seriously injured?" And Frank laughs and says, "Well, they put him in the ambulance and took him to the hospital." So that was something else. In 1986, the time had come to merge a couple of lanes to the right in the freeway of life and settle down get married, have a family, and I moved to the big town of Rumsey, California, population 52, to purchase Cache Canyon River Trips, a whitewater rafting business which included 26.4 acres on the river, a nice home, a guest house, and a major barn, 7.5 acre Hartley English walnut orchard. And then 3 or 4 years after I arrived, the Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, which sounds like a real helpful civic organization, but the reality is they were nothing more than a water brokerage, decided to build the Blue Ridge Dam, which was 750-foot tall earthen dam 4 miles upstream from my home, which was the takeout point of both the 1 and the 2-day trips, and obviously would have put me out of business because it would have created a lake that would have been the shape of a lopsided V. The short side of the V would have gone back beyond our put-in point of Buck Island, and the long side of the V would have gone up Bear Creek beyond the intersection of 16 and 20. And there would have been no recreational worth of that lake whatsoever because the banks would be so steep, there would be no beaches or anything. So it was obviously something that I had to fight. So it turns out that my brother-in-law, Dr. Alfredo Prelat, was a pioneer in remote sensing at Stanford and took his PhD in geology and remote sensing. And he said, "Rick, let me take a look." So he gets this picture. See what Fred has been over his career, the chief geologist of almost all of the major US oil corporations. And basically NASA takes a picture of the earth from 2 miles up and you give it to Uncle Fred and he tells you where the oil is. So he took a picture of the site of the Blue Ridge Dam, and lo and behold, right underneath where they wanted to build that 750-foot tall earthen dam, there was a 1 mile horizontal displacement fault. Strangely enough, I couldn't make this up, called the Wilson Fault. And I took this picture down to the Yolo County Board of Supervisors, and all 5 of them got up off their duffs and came down and stared at that picture for 10 minutes, and that was the end of the dam. So if you could say that I didn't have great relations with the Yolo County Flood Control, that would be somewhat of an understatement. It's an interesting story how the Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District in Yolo County came to control the water in Lake County. And it happened because of this. The Germans settled in Hungry Hollow, a little burg a little to the northeast of Esparto in the 1850s. And the Germans didn't settle, excuse me, unless they found 2 things. And those 2 things were good trees and good water. And they found both there. And the first couple of years they lived there, this was right on Cache Creek, they must have been wet years because Cache Creek ran all summer. But then about the 4th or 5th year, sometime in the middle of August, the river dried up. And this was bad because now they had to drive their cattle and their horses all the way to the Sacramento River in order to water them, which was, took a big chunk out of the day. So the elders in the German community got together and thought this over, and they said, they gathered about 20 of the young members of the community, and they said, "We want you boys to walk up this creek and go to wherever it comes from and figure out what this all means." So they get up, and Cache Creek, as you may know, is the South Fork of Cache Creek, comes from Clear Lake. It's Clear Lake's only outlet. And when they got up there and they got into the lake, they found that there was a natural sandbar, which is called the Grisby Riffle. And they found that with their shovels, they could narrow the aperture and slow the flow of the water. And hence less water was coming out, but some water was coming out, and it would elongate the season of water. So they went back and reported this to the elders, and the elders said, "This is all very fascinating." And they thought about that for a couple of weeks, and then they said, "Okay, you boys go back up there and buy all that land near that around Clear Lake there." And that's what they did. And that's sort of the long, short story of how Yolo County came to control the water in Lake County. I ran Cache Canyon River Trips for 23 years. I started on the occasion of my 45th birthday in 1994, I decided I could throw any kind of birthday party I wanted. So I talked to my old pal Tommy Castro and paid him $800 for 3 sets, and the Rumsey Blues Festival was born. The Rumsey Blues Festival went on for 12 years and was one of the greatest experiences of my life, entertaining 600 of my closest friends in the backyard. River rafting was a great way to make a living. The guy that sold it to me was a man named Sam Fortner. He was a professional jockey from 1947 to 1957, and he literally put Bill Shoemaker in the business. And he said to me one day, Rick, if you want to be successful in this endeavor, you're going to get involved in this community. And so I said, you know, that sort of makes sense. So I did in spades at the fire department for 17 years. I ran for the school board. And it was, the reason I ran for the school board is there was a guy who's had 2 sons in the high school, and he didn't discipline him. And he got so upset when the principal of the high school disciplined him that the principal was fired, and this wasn't right. So I'm trying to unseat the incumbent. And as you all know, the incumbent has what's called a 10% bounce, which means an advantage of 10% because of name recognition. So when I got on the website at 6 o'clock, when the polls had closed and they just counted the absentee ballots, I found that I was 32 votes ahead of the incumbent, and my lead dropped to a nadir of 12 throughout the evening, and I beat the jerk by 20 votes. And what I encountered was a underperforming high school, and this was all happening just at the time that then Governor Gray Davis gave the teachers in California a 21 or 22% raise. But the unfortunate thing was the financial house of cards in the state fell apart immediately, and they didn't have the money to have these raises. And this is where Arnold Schwarzenegger came and threw his hat in the ring and had Gray Davis recalled, and ended up to be our governor. So it was not a pretty situation when I got there. So the fair question is, how do we play? And I'm delighted to tell you that in 2013, our middle school was a California distinguished school. In 2014, our middle school was a federal blue ribbon distinguished school. 2015, the year my lovely daughter Jessica graduated from Esparto High School, that was a California distinguished school, and she has a little thing on her diploma that indicates that. And in 2016, our elementary school became a California distinguished school. And when I asked my superintendent to call the Sacramento and find out how often does that happen, that you have all of your comprehensive schools honored in a 4-year period like that, and there was a long silence and they couldn't come up with an answer. So I felt pretty damn good about that. In addition, I coordinated a fundraiser to raise $350,000 to build the Sparta Library. 2 terms as the mayor of Rumsey, restarted a Boy Scout troop. And even though I hate to admit it, I was a lion for 20 years in Sparta. I am reminded remember, they only out in the sticks, they only have lions. But I want to remind you of John Blout's famous comment, and that is, the lions work in the town, the Kiwanis manage the town, and the Rotarians own the town. I shall end on a lighter note. I want to tell you about the 2 times that I was lucky enough to attend the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. The first one was in, I think, 1957 at the Cow Palace. And one of my good friends was a guy named Rick Duran, and Rick Duran's father, Ed Duran, managed the Cow Palace. So we would go, and I seem to remember the hockey team was called the Seals. So we would go see the Seals on Friday night. And while Daddy was counting the receipts in the office, we had 2 electric carts and would play dodgems on the ice. So when we went to a charity basketball game between the 49ers and the Harlem Globetrotters, then Y.A. Tittle was the quarterback, and we were able to sit with Y.A. Tittle on the bench for about 20 minutes. And about 10 into the 20 minutes, the coach says, Y.A., you got to lose the kids and get your head in the game. And Y.A. looked at the coach and said, these are my friends. So that was the moment that I became a member of the 49er faithful. And I was lucky enough to meet Y.A. Tittle when I was working over near the Oakland Coliseum at a cocktail party. And I reminded him of that story. He got a big smile on his face and he remembered. But so obviously when I think Ricky's seventh birthday party when we were in second grade was celebrated at the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, and Emmett Kelly, the premier clown, entertained us in the private box. You may remember Emmett Kelly from Fellini's The Clowns. He was roundly featured in that movie. The second time I went to see the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, it was at the Arco, or the Echo Arena, as they called it, in Sacramento. And I took my daughter, who was 12, and I was sitting there waiting for the show to start, being my usual quiet self in a very loud Hawaiian shirt. And a little guy in a slick suit comes and taps me on the shoulder and says, "How would you like to perform in the center ring of the greatest show on earth?" And I said, "Man, I'm with you. Let's go." And 5 minutes later, I was throwing plates back and forth with the lead clown and actually getting laughs. And my daughter the whole time was like this. She absolutely couldn't believe it. So anyway, those are the two times I went to see the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. But I did find out that when we were attempting to do a fundraiser in Esparto, that there hadn't been a circus in Esparto for 70 years. So I contacted the Culpeper Merriweather Circus, one of those European one-ring style circuses, and got them to come to perform in Esparto in the park. And there was two shows, like at 5 and 7, and at 4 o'clock we hadn't sold a ticket. I mean, it was scary. I thought I was going to die 1,000 deaths. But what I learned that day, and I didn't know this, is the Hispanic folks aren't the kind of people that go out and buy anything in advance. They show up at the moment of and lay out the cash and get in. We had 2 sold out performances. I was so proud and delighted. And the thing I will never forget about that day was they had a little elephant named Barbara, obviously a take on Babar. And as Babar, and we were sitting, my daughter and I were sitting in the front row, and as Barbara walked by my daughter Jessica, her little trunk went out and hoovered half of the popcorn out of Jessica's box of popcorn. And so anyway, those are just a couple of the stories over the years. I got a hell of a lot more. Someday I'm going to write down some more of them and come back and share them with you. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have your attention today, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Yay!
Hey, Rick.
So, Rick, are you going to formally end up doing a self-publishing, or what are you going to do?
Well, you know, I've spoken to a couple of friends who are knowledgeable in this area, and they tell me to get a decent editor. It's about a $12,000-$15,000 experience, and that sort of gave me pause. But I heard of something called Fiverr or something recently, where somebody said it sounded like too good to be true. But basically, I'm at the point of I need to edit the thing and publish it. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Fascinating and wow. So, yay. I'm going back to sharing. So Wayne Britton, do you have a way clean joke for us?
I do. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I've got a couple actually. So what did the Buddhist say to the hot dog vendor?
I don't know.
Make me one with everything.
Ah.
And why should the number 288 never be mentioned?
I don't know.
It's too gross.
Oh, that's really bad. That one's
and the best one of all is, why don't calculus majors throw house parties? Because you should never drink and derive.
Oh, now that one's really bad too.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
But they're all clean. Congratulations.
They're all clean. Yes. Yes.
Well, except that first one.
Right. So Rod, I'm so sorry. Once again, we do not have any good luck with the ladybug.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, I know. That's what you get for buying the dollar scratchers, but you know, hey. So Joe, please lead us out with
Here we go. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling on till then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
and we will meet again on Friday night at 5:30 at Libby Park. So
Yeah.
yay. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you Friday. And if not Friday, then we'll see you on next Wednesday.
Safe travels, Dan.
Yep,
Thank
safe
you.
travels and have a great time. It's so good to see friends and family.
Nice to see you, Ken.
Yep.
Good
Thank
to
you,
see
Ken,
you,
for
Ken.
coming.
Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Okay, now we're at end. So I'm going to end it for everybody. Bye, guys.